Hi there, guys. So I'm just going to do another horror TV series review. Actually, this is not a movie review, so this is a horror TV series review. I suppose to say supernatural TV series. It's on Netflix at the moment. This one is called Midnight Mass. This one, I've seen a little bit of chatter that was on the internet about this series, saying that as you know, probably done a few Stephen King books already on this one. I do like my horror, my books and my movies. So I thought, in the spirit of going forward towards Halloween, I thought I'd check this one out just to see what it's all about. And yeah, it's safe to say this one didn't disappoint. This was an absolutely brilliant TV series, a limited only series on Netflix. Brilliant cast, excellent acting and direction as well. This one, so the premise of this TV series, Midnight Mass, it is a supernatural horror TV series. It is in regards to a town, one of these sort of fishing islands off the coast of the US mainland, who very sort of they have as a Catholic community, I should say, on this fishing village. They are without their usual, I think it's a Monsignor, if I'm saying that right. They're Catholic priest in this particular parish. There isn't anybody there. He's been taken ill after going to an excursion to the Holy Land, apparently. And this new charismatic young priest takes his place, and there's a bit of a religious revival within the community. All this is through the prism of a couple of different characters. So you've got the main character, who is Riley Flynn. So Riley Flynn is a former one of these hedge fund guys, a venture capitalist guy who we're introduced to at the start of the series, and he's pretty much the main character who unfortunately goes to prison for killing somebody in a car accident. And it's a car accident. He was intoxicated whilst behind the wheel of a vehicle, and that's his sort of struggles with dealing with the guilt of killing this girl, his loss of faith while he was in prison, his exploration of the other faiths as well, which he stipulates in the TV series, leads him to become an atheist. He is a very interesting character. He gets to reconnect with a couple of the people from his old times living on this particular village. The character who is played by Kate Siegel is another one, Erin Green. So this is Riley's former girlfriend, maybe in the younger days, as teenagers, go back to school. She's now one of the school teachers on the island, one of the two school teachers. So we're introduced to wide cast of characters on the island itself. You have Riley Flynn's parents. One of them is actually, the father is actually played by Henry Thomas, the guy, if you've seen E.T., he was the young boy Elliot, which was excellent. I couldn't believe it was him, but I spotted him straight away, actually, that in the face. I thought, I'll check the cast roster, and it was him, actually. It's a very interesting character we have, played by Rahul Kohli. So this character in the series, he is the sheriff of the town. He's a Muslim, so he doesn't really he's like an outsider within the town. He doesn't really sort of partake too much. One, because of obviously of the faith aspect as well. Being mainly Catholics on this island, Crockett Island. So, but we do see a couple of other different characters. We have the Doctor. We have who else do we have? Bev. Bev Keane is another one. So Bev Keane is another major character in this series. So Bev is one of these sort of really overly righteous, highly sort of has a huge high opinion of herself, not so much of others, because she believes that her pure righteousness in faith is effectively makes her a better person than anybody else within the community and within the church itself as well. So that character does come to play hugely as the series progresses as well. The other main player within the series is the actor Hamish Linklater. So his character, who is Father Paul Hill, he is the new priest, the really sort of charismatic priest that arrives to replace the aging Monsignor Pruitt. This is sort of put across as a temporary fix, first of all. He seems very sort of very knowledgeable, very safe in his interactions with people early on in the series. The first episode or so, the supernatural aspect of it comes into it, where you're starting to see this sort of like this figure in the bushes with piercing white eyes, and then you see him darting away, running away. So people catching glimpses of something or somebody, and on the island, who seems to be sort of out at night, but very much not wanting to be seen darting away, like a bit of a prowler, a prowler around the houses. And so as this progresses, episode 1, episode 2, we get to have a bit more depth with the characters, and there's a good portion or two of the episodes that go into sort of the effects of guilt, the meaning of life between those conversations between Riley and Erin as well. You do get introduced as well there to the mayor of the town, his wife and daughter. His daughter is actually, unfortunately, she's a paraplegic. I think is it paraplegic? I think she's used to. I think it's paraplegic if I'm not mistaken. She's lost the use of her legs. She is in a wheelchair, but this was because of a bullet that had been fired by effectively the town sort of drunk, and he had let off this weapon. The bullet had gone through the base of her spine, ruptured that spine, and unfortunately she wasn't able to walk again. So Joe Colley, that's right, it was Joe Colley, who was, and it's quite a bit of a touching part in one of the episodes that we'll get to in a second, where he does forgive him for this, which I thought was quite nice. But what we start to see going on in the series is, there's immediately after Erin and Riley start to reconnect a little bit more on an emotional level, there's a huge sort of, I don't know what they call it, massive storm on this island. A huge storm knocks out the power. Everyone sort of batten down the hatches and stays in. But Riley sees outside this figure again. So this figure looks like the old Monsignor, the old priest from the church. Now this guy was in his 80s, before he left, and Riley does remember him with the same hat and the same coat. Who would walk around the island dressed in a very sort of old-fashioned Catholic priest kind of way. But he's outside and there's absolutely fucking crazy storm going off, so he runs after him outside. He runs after him across the beach, and again, this is the figure with the sort of the Purian white eyes. We get a lot of camera angles with something swooping down as well from the sky into the town as well, of people going missing or things going missing as well in the town. The odd person, peripheral characters, not main characters, but people passing through, peripheral characters in the background as well, going missing, but as well. So Riley chases this figure across the beach, and he just vanishes after being run after for a good minute or so. So nothing on that front, and then we start to see things turning then with the priest Paul Hill, who starts to go into confessional himself about what he's done wrong, the lies that he's telling to the congregation there at Crockett Island, and he started to think, hang on a second, what's all this about? What are you lying about? What are you not keeping you informing them about? And then he starts to sort of, towards the end of one of the earlier episodes, starts to say, I may be deceiving the members of the community about the real situation regarding the Monsignor Pruitt. He had been telling them that he's sick and it's unlikely that he's going to come back into service, but he's okay. He remembers everybody, kind of alluding to maybe that he's sort of losing his faculties in older age and sort of stuff like that. As things start to get escalated, there's one of the middle episodes of the series. I think there's 7 episodes altogether, 7 1-hour episodes. And in the middle episodes, 3, 4, we start to see effectively the resurgence, the religious revival coming through again, and led by this Father Paul Hill, this charismatic, very sort of enigmatic, priest who seems very comfortable, but is showing up out of nowhere. He's helping Riley with his AA. He's helping people like Joe Collin and Tom Drunk. He's offering to help everybody and be there to lend an ear, to fit in as much as he can. And he's, like I say, he's been telling people that the Monsignor isn't well. He's just losing. He's on the slide basically of his latter sort of years. But we start to see, as I referred to earlier on, the mayor of the town, of the island, his wife, who was very active in the church, and a daughter who is who was crippled in the wheelchair. Now this girl has been taking confessional daily, and her and Bev, as I mentioned earlier on, this Bev character who is, a bit of a church busybody, very, very self-righteous. She's pretty much the helping hand of the church, on hand for Father Paul Hill, and was for the old Monsignor when he was there as well. Now, so those two are the ones who've been taking daily confessional. So at one point in one of the services, so the father comes in to give the mass, and he says, I want you to walk, and everyone in the church thinks it's a bit of a sick joke, and it's really messing up with maybe triggering poor mental health, and really sort of being maybe it's going to cause some PTSD, and it really sort of disturbs people in the church that he's asking this obvious crippled young girl who's still dealing with that to get up and walk. And lo and behold, she does. She gets up, she stands up from the wheelchair and walks, but this isn't some sort of temporary 2-second thing and then she collapses. No, this thing actually happens. She goes, she walks, he steps back, she walks further again, she walks up the steps of the church, and is able then to take the communion wafer, and also the wafer and the blood of Christ as well then, which we'll come into a bit later on. So so at this point I just want to say this is where I'm going to draw the line for you. If you've not seen it, I highly recommend from this point on, stop and go and watch the series and come back later. So I'll try and timestamp it 13 minutes and 30 seconds, okay? So stop, go back and watch it, and come back afterwards. But if you want to stay and find out a little bit more, and you want to understand the spoilers, and you've been pre-warned. So at this point, with the young girl walking and the town really sort of claiming a miracle, the father, Paul Hill, is being attends another mass and collapses in the church itself as well then, and it's quite a violent collapse as well. He starts to sort of go off on a tangent, preaching what you could say an orthodox version of the main Catholic message, you could say, that maybe the residents put down to the fact that he's got an infection of some kind, or that he's dealing with an illness because he's perspirating, he's coughing, he's panting, and he doesn't look well at all, and then he collapses. So they take him into the small sort of father's church house at the back for him to recuperate. And so later on he does tend to sort of recuperate, but we start to see now where little things are starting to add up that have been alluded to earlier. So there's a picture, a photograph of the old Monsignor Pruitt within that house, and when you see that picture, it is identical to Father Paul Hill in the young version, so they're identical. Then it is alluded to later on then but then the story is told later on then that Monsignor Pruitt is Father Paul Hill. And how has he done this? How has he been able, as a man of 80, who's journeyed to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem and Israel, to the Holy Land, and it's shown that he's very confused. He's got potentially like dementia or Alzheimer's, and he wanders into the desert, and as a scared old man wanders into the desert, into this cave, and it looks like a very, very old sort of early centuries, maybe early centuries church, this cavern area, and he sees these two eyes looking back at him, and in this thing there is a creature, and as this is being shown, you've seen earlier on in the series, just I think it's in the same time that the father's recounted this, that you see a man from the Crocodile Island going into a house because he's seen somebody with in an abandoned house with the door wide open, sees these eyes staring back at him, and this creature inside, or this what he thinks is a creature or maybe a person inside, and then that swoops down and takes him, whatever it is. So at the same time later on we see the father then recounting that he has an encounter with another either creature or a person with these piercing white eyes, and what's alluded to then is that the father believes that this is an angel come down from heaven to help him, give him the word of God, or inspire him, or even take him to heaven. Now, that'll be all well, but this angel has wings of a bat, has pointed ears, has sharp teeth, and sets upon the older version of the sort of Monsignor Pruitt, and is bitten on the neck. The blood is drained from him, and life is he's about to expire. The angel, in brackets, is then gives the gift of life back to Monsignor Pruitt by cutting his own hand and releasing the blood of the angel back to the Monsignor. At this point, it's told that in order for the Monsignor to continue the process of de-aging, that the creature follows him along, and the Monsignor has shipped back this creature, the angel, back to Crocodile Island in order to help the community in which he was an integral member of prior to old age deterioration. Now there is a character, so that there is a nurse within the community. So this nurse has got an old mother, and this mother is having a lot of trouble with advanced stages of dementia, which is quite distressing. I know it's obviously acting, but it's quite distressing. So if you've ever had a family member who've had dementia, it's not a nice thing. But and she sees this creature outside, once or twice through the episode, and we think, where is this character? Where is this thing going? So Paul Hill, the father, is actually giving private masses to this old lady in her own home, who's got the dementia, and she starts to improve over time. She starts to improve. She is able to get out of bed. She's able to remember things that earlier on in the series she didn't know who her daughter was or who this person was. She's able to climb the stairs. She's able to. So over 2 or 3 episodes, you see it straight away where people are able to do things that they weren't able to do, put it down as a miracle. And of course, the church is being packed out. They think that there's some sort of religious revival going on Crockett Island. Now, being an atheist, Riley Flynn, the main character at the start, who went to jail for killing a young girl while he was drunk behind his car, doesn't suspect that this is organic. He maybe thinks that this father is a bit of a snake oil salesman, a bit of a trickster, which was really my sort of assumption. I couldn't really see where the supernatural thing was coming into it, to be honest with you. But effectively, we get to a point where there's, they sort of interrogating each other to a point. They're trying to really, like 2 boxers early on in a championship fight, they kind of sort of feeling each other, distances, and just trying to sort of work each other out really before, because you still find that underlying tension between the two. Now, what happens and develops later on, once it is revealed, particularly to Bev by the Monsignor Pruitt, that he is the younger version of himself, that there's a reason why he's able to get this youth and vitality. You start to see that he's doing what he's doing for the best of intentions. To a point, he's helping individual people, so you can understand that, but it does make you think, where is all this leading? He's helped a young girl walk. He's helping a dementia-riddled older lady revitalize herself to a point. And then we see what happens then is the physical change within the Monsignor himself, and it prompts what I would say this is the tipping point of the series. So prior to this part of the series where the Monsignor Pruitt, aka Father Paul Hill, is trying to help the town drunk and a collie, and he comes to his office to try and help him, and the Monsignor has been really ill, can't understand this feeling he's got in his body, a thirst, a hunger, a need, but he can't go outside. He's just sick, but he needs whatever he's got a huge desire for hunger. Now, town drunk turns up, and he's starting to see a shift in the Monsignor, who is grabs him and holds him tight, and can hear his heartbeats, and for some reason is holding his neck and tries to emulate what the angel did to him, effectively. So, let's cut the bullshit. The vampire, the angel is a vampire, and is a head vampire. So the Monsignor is one of the disciples of this head vampire, and he is going through the change, effectively. The change from, a person, a human, into a vampire, and the stresses and strains and the sicknesses of him doing that is his body dying and becoming the undead. So when Collie comes to his house to see him, and they hold each other, he's turned into a vampire, and he needs that blood. He smashes Collie's head on the back of a table. The blood is running out the back of his head. Instead of helping him, he starts to obviously feast off him and make sure that he retains his strength and his youthfulness. Bev turns up at the house later on, and I think she's starting to put things together beforehand. But unlike a good Christian woman, as she should have done, which would be to say, what the fuck is going on here? Why have you killed the town drunk? Her sort of, I would say, in a sort of retrospective analysis of her psychology, would be that her righteousness and her sort of belief that people are better than others, and that this Collie town drunk deserved what happened to him because he was a town drunk, because he paralysed a young girl who the Monsignor had healed and made a miracle. That was fine to kill him, and whatever the Monsignor needed to do and did afterwards is of no relevant is of no consequence, or is of no consequence whatsoever, because he is a good man and he has done enough good that would outweigh any bad. Now, this is not an alien sort of take on things. I mean, we know even just to give a more recent example, that we know that that type of mentality is what sustained something like the Jimmy Savile career of that, absolutely disgusting psychopathic paedophile, which was that people, in the know knew what he was, but because of his sort of charity and his celebrity and his fame, they allowed him access to do what he did, because things balanced out. There was a greater good being served with money being raised and things like that, whilst he was, he was obviously doing what he was doing to sick, vulnerable young girls, boys and women. So, that type of self-righteous for the greater good mentality, which, is a very dangerous attitude to have as well. It removes the agency of the individual, and it removes any sort of empathy as well. It's a very utilitarian view of the world, which, as we know, is a huge crutch of where a lot of massacres and a lot of travesties have happened over the last couple of centuries, of where people believe that other people as groups and even individuals can be discarded for the greater good. We're probably going through that now with obviously COVID, aren't we? But there we are. I won't get into that. But anyways, this is where that bear's attitude comes from. So at this point in the series now, we know that Father Paul Hill is constantly approved. He is sick. He's not really able to go back out into the church in the day for obvious reasons. He's changed into a vampire. He is now a vampire. Bev, the self-righteous, very pious, goody two-shoes idiot woman, who I should have mentioned earlier on, she killed Collie's dog as well, so she doesn't give a shit about him either. But that, so there was a heartless moment in that where she gave poison to the dog, and the sheriff, who is a Muslim and is pretty much knew to a point that she had done it, but this Bev is a bit of a goody two-shoes, and she'll talk herself into or out of anything as well. That's presented in the series quite a lot. Once where she, where the sheriff is asking her questions, and she sort of self-accuses herself whilst talking herself out of it as well, and he just lets her speak. And there's another thing where this religious revival continues in the town, that the Muslim sheriff's son brings home a Bible. He takes umbrage to that, goes to the school meeting just to raise the issue. He doesn't really have any problem with his son learning about Christianity or the Bible or any sort of way, but I think that because of the religious revival recently on the island, it is kind of being enforced, or sort of it is being very, very much encouraged on the boy by Bev, who is one of the sort of assistant people who basically sets the curriculum and is liaising with the school in a religious aspect. She has a very sort of duplicitous and a very unethical and a very contradictory view of things. I mean, she was hoping to sort of enforce this boy to take home the Bible, but she would not countenance wanting any of the other children to take home a Quran in the discussion, which is quite I thought was a quite good part of the series actually, which was she's a very intolerant person, is probably the best way I would put it. Very intolerant for somebody who's sort of wears the cross and has self-righteousness, knows every line of the Bible, but doesn't live how Jesus Christ would want you to live as well. That's the big contradiction in her, and the intolerance of where she stems from. She thinks she's better than others. So this character is very, very interesting. Fair play to the actress who plays her. I thought she was brilliant. Anyways, at this point, So Riley is still going through his AA meetings. He was looking. He does have a little bit of a relationship with Corley, the town drunk. Before, obviously, the incident happens where he goes. Corley gets killed by the Monsignor. Um, Erin, the school teacher and the friend slash girlfriend of Riley, is she believes she's pregnant. Now she's been taking the mass like everybody else in the town every Sunday, or apart from Bev and the old lady with dementia and the young girl who was in a wheelchair. Those are the only three who were taking mass regularly every day. Now, Erin has gone to the doctor, and unfortunately, it looks like she's had a miscarriage. But she can't believe it because there is no record later on of her having any sort of fetus or any sort of pregnancy. And this is not a phantom pregnancy. This is because the mass itself, the whatever it is, the blood that is being given to the congregation derives from the vampire. So whatever it is slowly but surely having an effect on the congregation. Not enough to elicit a formal full change, but enough for something to be going on and changing within the body itself anyway. So as we see later on, we get to this point now where things are going to go down. We're over the tipping point now, and really it is a question as to what does the Monsignor now? Is he going to be caught out, and this is going to blow wide open, or is he going to do something which really he takes control of the situation and tries to sort of bring up, normalize this obvious supernatural horror sort of hellscape that he's now undergone with the change. And it is the latter. So he takes control of the situation. You have Riley turns up at one of his AA meetings, and before he does turn up at one of the AA meetings, you have the man in the black suit with the hat. It is the vampire who's followed the Monsignor back from the Holy Land. He's holed up in one of the houses in the town, and he's feeding off residents, albeit these are the peripheral characters that are getting knocked off, one at a time. So the blood of Christ, needs to be replenished, and he goes in there and does it. And as he's doing it, Riley turns up and sees this guy at the front of the community centre. This vampire then sets upon Riley, bites him. We think he's left him for dead, and so we think, oh Christ, that's the end of that. Later on, it transpires that the vampire had done that, but the Monsignor had given Riley the opportunity to be saved by putting his blood in and changing him fully into a vampire by drinking the blood of the Monsignor. So, as you can see, he's able to create fellow disciples for this head vampire, and his plan then starts to take shape, the Monsignor, where he doesn't want to be able to. He wants to be able to give the people in the town the gift of everlasting life. The death that they can conquer death. It's very something which his older self would have been desiring because of the lack of control, because he had dementia, and also the sort of being at death's door, effectively by being such an aged man, he's no longer there. So the ability to conquer death and also to remain youthful itself as well is very, very appealing to him, and he wanted to give that gift to the residents of Crockett Island. So what seems to happen at this point now is a bit of a commentary on politics as well, is that you've got this charismatic leader who wants to give the people exactly what they want, but the fact is that the people probably don't really know what they want, in the sense of, actually, it's that famous phrase, and then be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it, and effectively this is what people are going to be getting. So the later two chapters of the series is that the Monsignor is planning a Jim Jones style transformation for the entire congregation on the island. That the congregation will turn into vampires themselves, or as he puts it, they will embrace the gift of God and of the gift of this angel. Still refers. I don't think they ever use the V word vampire in this series at all, but it's obvious that it is a vampire. They have used descriptions of angels from the Bible in order to shape the character, as well as, I mean, when you see the character in the TV series, he looks like the old sort of 1920s, 30s Nosferatu style vampire mixed with the biblical angel style wings and body form and stuff like that. But so what we get is we start to see Bev effectively relish the opportunity and the Monsignor to prompt him to give the congregation what they want. So they've got, like I said, this Jim Jonestown style cult where they've all got their plastic cups everywhere. The father holds a midnight mass, hence why he can't go out in the day, because if he does, he'll burn and fry. Before this point, Riley is a vampire. He's dealing with the change. He doesn't want to kill anybody. He doesn't want to drink any more blood. He writes a letter to his mum and dad, who he's been living with since he got out of jail. He writes a letter to Erin as well, and he writes a letter, and he writes a letter as well to the Monsignor. He effectively tries to tell his mother and father not to sort of go to church anymore. Tries to give them a heads up about what's been going on. Erin, he takes out in a boat to the pretty much offshore around just before dawn and recounts the story. And he's got a huge amount of bloodlust going on at that time, so he could easily jump on the boat and kill her, drain her, and sustain himself as a vampire and then go back. But that would be obviously hurting her, maybe even killing her or even changing her, which he doesn't want to do. So he sacrifices himself as the main character of the series to effectively stop and give a heads up to the town not to accept this gift from this vampire or angel, as they say. At this point, Erin, the doctor / midwife, whose mother was riddled with dementia and old age at the start. Now this woman has probably de-aged from the age of about 89 to about 61, and is, it's absolutely unbelievable. Now she attends church with her daughter, and she doesn't like the message she's hearing from the father, from the Monsignor. At this point, it's too late. The Monsignor with Bev and a couple of other lackeys, including the mayor and his wife, they've pretty much sort of set a plan, a bit of a trap to make sure that electricity would be cut, phone lines would be cut, the boats for the island would be discarded or sent away. The mobile phone tower would be switched off as well, and the Monsignor would then introduce the angel to the congregation, and they would take the drink and the offering that God has given them. Now, this actually happens. It's a pretty sort of on edge of your seat scene, and I will be honest, this is probably one of the best parts of the series, if not the best part of where things start, where the fucking shit hits the fan. It's a shocking scene. There's been a lot of shocking church scenes in films and TV recently. Like I said, with 1666, Fear Street, that was pretty bad. Then also the first Kingsman movie where they're killing the fuck out of everybody as well in the church was pretty funny and was an amazing action scene as well. But this scene, for sheer suspense, is unbelievable, and the reveal of the angel / vampire is fantastic. And what happens afterwards then is, you're seeing the people die, their bodies dying as they're taking the gift of life from this angel. Obviously, those who are very, very pious, who have, they're taking it without any consequence whatsoever. The sheriff tries to intervene on behalf, and his son takes the drink. Unfortunately, he's been sort of seduced by the miracle aspect of what had been going on within the church. So unfortunately, he thought he'd lost his son to the faith, but actually he'd lost his son not to the actual Catholic faith itself, but he'd lost it to the sort of warped snake oil salesman bullshit sort of sideshow of a deranged supernatural priest and his puppet master supernatural being, emanation of evil, really. So he shoots at the angel and tries to kill, and he shoots the Monsignor in the head. But because of obviously the vampirism, he does heal. It takes a little while for him to heal, but he does heal. All the while it gives Bev the opportunity. So this self-righteous bitch takes charge, and effectively the ones who do not take the drink, I see some similarities here with the pokes with the current situation over the last 2 years going on here. So those who've taken the drink end up being fucked up, and their bodies dying, and they come back with a high propensity for bloodlust, and they start attacking those who have not taken the drinks. And you have a little band of survivors, in brackets, survivors, because they don't really survive. So you have the young girl and Riley's younger brother, who are in the town. They are pretty much trying to get away from the parents and all the elders who've taken the drinks, and they've, obviously vampires at this time. They're trying to find the boats to take a boat out and go to shore and escape. The band of survivors, including Erin, the doctor, the sheriff, and the doctor's mum, managed to sort of get back into the backside of the church whilst all this shit is going down. They confront Bev. Bev is shot by Erin as well, which was quite satisfying, albeit that she doesn't die because she's full of the vampire blood, so she just takes time to recover. The angel or vampire had already at this point taken somebody out of the church, flown away, and was draining them of the blood, so he's not in the church at that point. Later on, we do see that unfortunately Erin does succumb and is bitten by the vampire, but at the time she's pulling the vampire, using the bloodlust to make sure that it's feeding off her, and she is cutting the wings and cutting massive holes through the wings to make sure that the vampire can't fly away properly or correctly. Now, after that, then you have the doctor. So you have the mother of the doctor was actually the lover of the Monsignor going back in the day. So he'd broken his oath of celibacy in order to sort of be with her, and it's alluded to that girl, the doctor, is his daughter. She is shot by one of the sort of more militant, but I don't know, fanatic. That's the best way. Fanatical new vampires is shot with a shotgun, so she's killed. Now the Monsignor does try to give her his blood, the vampire blood, to make sure that she lives, but she spits it out and she dies in his arms because she doesn't want any of this poison, so what it's going to do to them. Now Bev and the general sort of assembly of the congregation start going house to house and attacking people who were not at the church at that time, killing them, draining them of their bodies, or even turning them as well into vampires. And because of her religious fundamentalism and coming back on the day of judgment from death, as she perceives it, she starts to burn down the forces and burned down all the properties on the island, save for the church and the rec centre. So what we have at this point now is that you have her trying to fulfill her own sort of fucking crazy revelation as part of her own sort of prophecy on this island to begin the community anew with all this vampirism. You have the kids running away to try and get on the boats to get away to make sure that there's survivors on the island to tell the tale and to inform people about what happened. You have Erin being bitten then at the end by the vampire, cutting its wings to make sure that it doesn't fly away. And then you have the band survivor. The sheriff is, unfortunately, about to burn down the church and the rec centre, and is stopped by Bev, who shoots him. So he's got bullet wounds all through him. His son steps forward then, takes his lighter. So his son, who had actually taken the vampire's blood and had turned himself now, has seen the error of his ways, the way that this sort of fanaticism has taken over people. They've become an unruly mob. They've used their sort of piety and self-righteousness and that sort of your individualism doesn't matter, your freedom doesn't matter, because this is for the greater good. That type of mentality now has overruled and has caused absolute chaos and has caused a massive travesty on the island. So he sets aflame the rec centre and the church. So you have then as well the Monsignor and the doctor's mother talking about times gone past, and they're quite content for when the sun rises for them to turn to dust. The rest of the vampires then, Bev, being a complete little fuck up that she is, there is no other property on the island because she had burned everything else. They can't hide. They are all going to die when the sun touches their bodies later on. So there's a bit of you do get a bit of a bit of a strange ending where the vampire flies away and is flying away from Dawn's light coming forward, and I don't know whether it's alluded to whether the vampire survives or not, but you can see it definitely flying away, not well. The rest of the vampire horde of people from the congregation are resigned to their fate, that they're going to die, that they've been had. This wasn't a gift from God. Effectively, this was a curse. Bev doesn't take it well. She starts to try and panic. She digs a hole in the sand to try and hide herself. She doesn't want to die, but thankfully she does, because that's one character you would be glad has her fucking comeuppance, because she's an evil bitch. Unfortunately, Erin doesn't survive, nor does the sheriff. He passes away, dies of his gunshot wounds while his son disintegrates next to him, as does the Monsignor and as well later on. So the survivors mainly are the young girl who was able to recover her walking, but unfortunately, since when the horde vampires are dead on the island, she loses the ability to walk again. So I don't know if that is a portent that the vampire did die, because normally, sort of in vampire lore, if the head vampire dies and everybody else gets cured, or whatever happened to you is undone when the head vampire is dead. So anyways, but yeah, so I've gone off a pretty much fucking spoiler. I've gone through the entire series there for you, so that's a fantastic series. Unbelievable. I thought it was exceptional, really. I thought it was a really good treat to watch before Halloween. I will give this series 4.5 out of 5. It has been reviewed already on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, the critics have given it 89%, audience score 76, pretty decent. IMDb, let's have a look what it is scored on IMDb. So 7.8 out of 10, that's not too bad at all. I would say, I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. I thought it was excellent, and I would very much like to rewatch it again. But definitely there are some sort of some political commentary going on in this as well. as well as just some general truth that I think that whilst watching it, you start to unless you already knew, then it becomes apparent later on as well. But brilliant cast, excellent characters, fantastic suspense as well and build up. And the best compliment I could probably give is to say that it was very Stephen King-esque. And yeah, I've read Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and I think that was on par, if not better as a TV series. That one, Midnight Mass, it was fantastic. So yeah, catch it on Netflix if you can. I hope you enjoyed the video.